tonight.
These issues would not ordinarily come before the Secretary of State, and they did not in this case.
Hillary Clinton denying she had a responsibility to oversee security in Libya. Is that true? And did Mrs. Clinton mislead the nation about the Benghazi assassinations? We will answer those questions tonight.
Do you know where Benghazi is?
Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Iran.
Many Americans have no idea what the Benghazi hearings or the controversy over Mrs. Clinton is all about. Jesse Waters will prove that this evening.
We need to do something about this. The people who are putting their lives on the line are people of my skin color.
Also ahead, a black police officer in New York City shot dead by a man considered non-violent, despite a long career of disruptive behavior. Caution. You are about to enter the no-spin zone. Factor begins right now. Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Hillary Clinton, is she telling the truth about Benghazi, Libya? That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Former Secretary of State testified for hours today in a politically charged House hearing about her responsibility in the assassinations of American Ambassador to Libya Christopher Stevens and 3 other Americans. Here are the headlines. Mrs. Clinton does not believe she did anything wrong. The Democrats on the committee do not believe she did anything wrong. It has now been proved beyond a reasonable doubt that shortly after the attack on September 11, 2012, Hillary Clinton believed it was an organized terror attack. She mentioned the words al-Qaeda-like to her family. Nevertheless, she went along with the Obama administration's false narrative that the murders were ignited by an inflammatory videotape. Most of the testimony today was numbing, almost impossible to sit through, but there were 2 nuggets. First, how Mrs. Clinton herself sees the situation.
Those requests and issues related to security were rightly handled by the security professionals in the department. I did not see them. I did not approve them. I did not deny them. These issues would not ordinarily come before the Secretary of State, and they did not in this case.
So there you have it. Not my job. Not my job. As head of the State Department, I left it to others to protect Americans in dangerous places overseas. But the security people, as Mrs. Clinton calls them, failed to protect Ambassador Stevens, despite being warned time after time that more security was needed.
Why has no one been held accountable? How come not a single person lost a single paycheck connected to the fact that we had the first ambassador killed since 1979?
It is my position that in the absence of finding dereliction or breach of duty, there could not be immediate action taken.
Immediate action? There wasn't any action ever. No one in Hillary Clinton's State Department was held responsible for the debacle in Benghazi. No one. And that's likely to be the end of the story, except for one thing. Hillary Clinton's running for president. So now we the people have to decide whether she is a leader we can trust. Millions of Democrats have already made that decision, as have millions of Republicans. There's no question Mrs. Clinton is loved and loathed to a startling degree in this country. America needs a strong leader so we can regain economic momentum here and reverse the weakness that is on display throughout the world. That is what the next election is really all about. Yes, issues are important, but vision is more important. Hillary Clinton believes she did the right thing as Secretary of State all throughout her tenure. All the committees in the world not going to change her opinion of herself. My condolences once again to those Americans serving their country who were killed in Benghazi. It should never have happened. We were warned. And that's a memo. Now with the top story tonight, joining us from Washington, Fox News Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge. So you've been on this case in the very beginning. You knew far more about it than I do. Far more about it than I do. You watched the hearings today all the way through. Did she say anything misleading today, Hillary Clinton, in your opinion, Catherine?
Well, Mrs. Clinton testified today, Bill, that they did the best with the intelligence they had at the time. There were conflicting reports. But what we know now from these new emails is that she personally did not believe the video was responsible. She told her family it was al-Qaeda. She told the Libyans that it was Ansar al-Sharia. And she told the Egyptians there was no connection to the video and that there was no demonstration. Yet she went out for days, even weeks, this administration, blaming a video. And I can tell you here at Fox News, we were first to report that there was no demonstration on September 17th. We took a lot of heat for several weeks, but we proved to be correct, Bill.
Okay. Now, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Isn't it true that most appointed people in government have to go along, have to get along, have to do what they're told? Isn't that true? So Hillary Clinton, we know, as I mentioned, and you just mentioned, knew that this phony videotape scenario was bogus, but she was told, because you had to stand right next to the President of the United States when he was saying it, and she just shut up just to go along, right?
Well, I think there has to be a certain amount of principle in a situation like this, Bill. I have met with the victims' families, and I can tell you what happened to those people in Benghazi was horrific. When that mortar, 3 mortars, hit the CIA annex, one of the Navy SEALs was killed instantly, my understanding, and the other bled to death. And a diplomatic security agent for the State Department had one leg hanging by a thread. This is no small thing to then go along, to get along, by blaming a video when you know the facts. The facts at the time was premeditated terrorism, and her emails show that she understood that on a personal level as well, Bill.
So you, as a human being, not a reporter, are personally offended by what Mrs. Clinton did. You don't have to answer that question. That's what I'm taking out of your answer. Now, Ambassador Stevens himself sent a cable, and I was hoping that this cable was going to be the forefront of the hearings today. It was not. The cable from him in the summer, a couple of months before he was killed, said, look, we need more security here. We're in danger. We're all in danger.
Right.
She didn't even address that cable, right?
It was not addressed, but we did learn today, Bill, that there were over 600 requests for additional security. And one of the themes I seem to take away from Mrs. Clinton's testimony is that she believed that he understood the risk and he accepted the risk. But we all take risks, Bill, when you jump out of a plane skydiving. But this was like jumping out of a plane without a parachute, because that consulate was, in effect, a death trap. It did not meet the State Department requirements. And, you know, they had less security at that consulate on the day of the attack than what you would see in a high-priced condo in Florida. Those guys walked in and they set it on fire.
Sure.
I mean, that is not an acceptable level of risk.
Video cameras captured all of that. Nobody, there was no interdiction of these men. Final question for you.
Correct.
Am I wrong in stating, as I just did, that Mrs. Clinton does not feel that she did anything wrong at any time in this whole situation?
You know, I can't get inside her shoes, and I would not pretend.
But did you see anything today in all of those hours of testimony that showed any remorse?
I think when she took the questions about her personal emails, where she indicated her own belief that the video was not connected, I saw a moment there, at least, you know, from where I sit as a reporter, where she really sort of the energy sort of ran out of her.
But it wasn't articulated by her, though. You were looking body language, you were looking, but there wasn't articulated by her, was it?
Well, she made the argument, again, that she did the best with the intelligence that she had, but clearly the emails showed something completely different, and that is that's a conflict that's very hard to square.
Would have been nice if Mrs. Clinton had said, you know what, I shouldn't have done that, but we didn't hear that today. Catherine Herridge, thank you, as always. Next on The Rundown, Bernie Goldberg will analyze how the hearing today might influence Hillary Clinton's presidential chances. And later, Waters asking the folks about Benghazi.
Do you know who's testifying about Benghazi Thursday?
Obama, I guess.
Factor is coming. Right back. Hillary Clinton testifying before the House committee investigating the Benghazi terror attack. Joining us from Miami, the purveyor, BernardGoldberg.com, Mr. Goldberg. First of all, do you think my analysis and the talking points and Catherine Herridge's reportage in the A block was fair?
Yeah, I do. I do. You made a point in the talking points that she didn't take, Mrs. Clinton didn't take full control of security measures, and she didn't. We learned today, and by the way, I think you concluded that her position basically was, it's not my job. We learned today from Congressman Pompeo of Kansas that there were 600 requests for added security, and yet the number of security people on the ground in Benghazi was the same before the requests were made as after the requests were made. Somebody made a mistake. Somebody made a mistake, and I think you captured that in your talking points. Let me just add one thing.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Did you see
one thing very quickly?
Go ahead.
Mrs. Clinton had a very interesting strategy on that matter of security. She said, first of all, it wasn't my doing. It was the doing of, and she used this term over and over and over again, security professionals. But then she said the security professionals were courageous people, competent people, hardworking people. It's as if you criticize the security professionals, you're criticizing the American flag. So you can't criticize them, according to Mrs. Clinton, but you can't criticize her either, because it wasn't her job, it was the security professional's job. Well, who is responsible then?
Nobody
if
was
you can't
held
blame
responsible.
her or hold her accountable,
Okay.
and you can't hold the security professionals accountable, who is responsible?
Did you see any remorse, and I asked this to Catherine, did you see any remorse while she was talking about herself, Hillary Clinton? It's easy to show remorse for families of the dead Americans. Come on, anybody can do that. But when she was talking about herself, and I was watching it closely, I was looking for a little bit of, you know what, if I had to do it over again, I probably would have done it differently. I didn't see any of that, did you?
Well, I didn't hear any of that. Whatever we saw, we didn't hear that. I think Mrs. Clinton thinks that she's in the crosshairs of the Republican Party, not just of this committee, but of the Republican Party that doesn't want to see her as the next president of the United States.
Well, she's right on that. She's right on that regard. She is. She's right there.
Well, it's one thing to say she's in the crosshairs for political reasons. It's quite another to say she's in the crosshairs because somebody screwed up. And if it wasn't her, and you can't criticize the security professionals who made a mistake, who got punished, who lost their job, the answer is nobody.
You know, most human beings, and I'm sure you're guilty of this, and I am as well, rationalize things, right? We do something bad, and then we try to, well, you know, so Benny did something worse. So, you know, that kind of thing. What she has done, in my opinion, and this is important because she's running for president, if we're some other politician, I wouldn't care, is that she has allowed her indignation of people who dislike her to overwhelm the fact that she's mortal, that she didn't handle this situation well, that she should have been concerned about security in Libya, one of the hottest spots in the world. But she didn't even think about that because she's the victim. She's portraying herself as a victim.
Right. Right. I think if she did what you suggest, it would have been a huge help for her.
Yeah.
I don't think she was hurt. I don't think she was hurt, by the way. But I think that would have been a big help because she would have come off as human. She would have come off as compassionate. You know, I wish I had done something differently. Yes, I do lose sleep over that, but part of it is on me.
I think she's going to be hurt somewhat in the independent ranks because, you know, the two sides I pointed out are polarized. Because she did not come across as a leader. She came across as somebody who goes, you know, it wasn't my job. It was that Freddie Prinze? Not my job. Not my job.
Yeah.
You know,
look, I think this hearing was a Rorschach test. Whatever you went in with, you came out with. If you think the Republicans had her in the crosshairs yesterday, you have it tonight. If you think that she screwed up in Benghazi and you thought that yesterday, you think that tonight. So nobody's going to move on either side when they're already entrenched.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think those people who haven't made up their minds yet may be influenced by this, but don't forget, they didn't watch the hearings. They're only going to get bits and pieces on evening newscasts and tomorrow morning, and I don't know that it's going to be enough to influence very many people.
All right, Bernie Goldberg, everybody at Headwaters, asking the folks about the Benghazi controversy. Also up next, the police officer gunned down the street by a so-called non-violent offender. It's awful. We'll be right back. President Obama traveling to West Virginia yesterday saying this.
Rather than spending billions of dollars, taxpayer dollars, on long prison sentences for nonviolent drug offenders, we could save money and get better outcomes by getting treatment to those who need it.
Mr. Obama believing that Americans convicted of selling hard narcotics should be treated rather than punished in many cases. And that philosophy has now led directly to the murder of 33-year-old Randolph Holder, a New York City police officer. On Tuesday, Officer Holder was shot dead by 30-year-old Tyrone Howard, who has been arrested 28 times. He's a dope pusher. But 2 New York City judges recently sentenced him to rehab instead of prison, despite a prosecutor presenting evidence that Howard was dangerous. Now we have another dead cop because of this insane view, again endorsed by President Obama, that people involved in drug trafficking are nonviolent. With us here in New York City, Ebony Williams, Monica Crowley, both the Fox News analysts. And Monica, you say?
Well, taking a look at this, drug addiction is a serious and growing problem in this country. And what the president's talking about actually does have some bipartisan support in terms of trying to move people away from, the criminal justice system and into treatment. However, this case that just happened in New York City is a complete outrage. This guy was a career criminal. He had a rap sheet a mile long that consisted of drug arrests, assault charges, domestic violence, I think, criminal trespass. It's what the left calls low-level crimes, non-violent crimes. But what they don't understand, or what they can't understand, Bill, is that these thugs don't wake up one day and start committing felonies. They start at the lower level and then they escalate to committing felonies. And unless you punish them early on, you're going to get bad things happening like this.
Do you believe that selling heroin, crack, methamphetamine is a violent crime?
Yes, I've said this on the show before.
Ebony, you say?
I say this was my profession for many years, Bill. You know that. I was a criminal defense lawyer. I participated and encouraged qualified clients to enter diversion programs, and I stood beside many of them as they graduated successfully. Now, selling, trafficking, you're right. Those are crimes. But being an addict, we don't penalize that in this country. But it is, though, because that was the argument that his defense counsel made, Bill.
But that's not what his rap sheet said.
But he has no, what we call in the law, violent crimes. Nothing that used a weapon, nothing that would be
he was a member of
a violent crime.
He was a member, and this was brought out in trial, all right? The judge knew this. Member of a drug gang in a housing project. Drug gang housing project. Okay, everyone knows, including you, that if you're a member of a drug gang in a housing project, you carry a gun, all right? Because that's how you do business. You cannot be unarmed. You are in a violent society, and you know it. This is not some guy out in the middle of the desert smoking reefer or something like that.
But, Bill, we can't presume. I hear what you're saying.
That was presented.
He was never convicted. And look, it's called judge's discretion for a reason, though, Bill. None of us were on that bench or in that row.
Discretion.
And it's so easy to Monday morning quarterback. Look, Officer
I have a Monday morning quarterback. Every day of the week, I'm telling you this. If you sell hard drugs, it's not an addiction problem.
But he was argued to be an addict, and that was the defendant. That's why he was in the
The judge who remanded him into rehab literally said, I threw up my hands and said, why not? Why not try it? What he admitted later was he was unaware that Mr. Howard was wanted. He was arrested for a 2009
But the prosecutor said that he presented that evidence to the judge. Look, there's a philosophy in this country led by President Obama that if you sell hard drugs, but you use them as well, that you should be in rehab. And I'm telling you, these are dangerous individuals. They have no morals, no scruples. They will hurt you. And we have a dead cop.
Bill,
last word.
Bill, respectfully, you don't have to take my word for it. The Supreme Court has already argued this, Robinson v. California. If you are proven to be an addict, a judge believes that, you're sent to treatment. I agree that Officer Holder was killed down the street from me.
You are a violent person. You are not sent to treatment. That's judge's discretion.
And diversion programs can be useful tools, to Monica's point, to get to the heart of the criminality so that we can possibly thwart it and we can all be safe.
Look, if you want to allow these people to go to programs, rehab, after they've been arrested 28 times, then I'll tell you what, every person in this country should have a gun and carry it around every second, because that's what we're going to devolve into here.
It can be helpful tools, Bill.
All right, ladies, thank you.
Thank you.
Plenty more ahead as vacuum moves along this evening. A shocking development, the Democratic Party now embracing the Black Lives Matter radical movement. I'll have some comments on that. And Dana Perino on Hillary Clinton's Benghazi testimony today, and Waters on what the folks think about the whole affair. Hope you stay tuned for those reports.
fast acting.
Back in follow-up segment tonight, the radical group Black Lives Matter, not all that different than the Black Panther movement. They both believe America is a racist country where police actively target blacks for oppression. Black Lives Matter now causing trouble all over the country.
If you are not black, please move out of the center of the space.
Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon. Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon. Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon.
You would think if you have an organized group in America saying we want dead cops, that all decent people would reject that group. You would think, correct? But the Democratic Party is actively embracing Black Lives Matter. Here's part of a letter written by the DNC. Quote, "We believe that your organization would be an ideal host for a presidential candidate forum, where all of the Democratic candidates can showcase their ideas and policy positions that will expand opportunity for all, strengthen the middle class, and address racism in America," unquote. Now, that disturbing letter written by Amy Dacey, Chief Executive Officer of the DNC. Joining us from Washington, David Goodfriend, teaches law at Georgetown University, served in the Clinton administration. And Keith Boykin from Miami, who's also served as a special assistant to President Bill Clinton. Ms. Boykin, begin with you. What do you think about that letter?
I think it's a good move on the part of the DNC to work with the Black Lives Matter movement, the official movement, not everybody out in the street. And I do think, quite frankly, that they are a natural coalition. The Democratic Party needs to have the support of the African-American community. And the African-American community is concerned about the 923 police shootings this year. They're concerned about the 2.2 million people who are incarcerated in our country, the highest of any country on the planet. They're concerned about the issues of African-Americans not being addressed by the larger political climate. So I think it's important to have that conversation.
All right, so you believe that the Democratic Party is correct in embracing a radical group, a group that calls for police officers to be killed. Do I have your opinion
no,
correct?
I did not.
Yeah,
no.
well, I mean,
no,
the group calls for police officers to be killed.
In my opinion.
How? The group calls, as you just heard.
Who's speaking.
Mr. Boykin.
No.
The group calls for police officers to be killed.
I was there in December in 2014 marching with those protesters. I was covering it at that time for BET, for whom I work. And I did not hear anyone talk about killing dead cops.
Okay,
you were able to find a clip.
We just played it for you.
Yes, you were able to find one clip of some people who were saying some outrageous things, but that is not a reflection of the entire movement. Has anybody in the leadership ever said that?
Mr. Boykin,
has DeRay McKesson ever said that? Has anyone in the leadership ever said that?
You're either going to stop talking or I'm going to cut your mic off. Did anybody in the Black Lives Matter movement repudiate "we want dead cops"? Thank you. Mr. Goodfriend, your time is done, Mr. Boykin.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Goodfriend.
Sir.
You just heard that debate with Mr. Boykin. My point is, this is a radical group that calls for violence against police officers. We have proven that. There was no repudiation of what Mr. Boykin and I just heard. Okay? We have proven that. Should the Democratic Party ally themselves with that group?
Well, Bill, I looked very carefully at the letters you referred to. There were two put out on October 21st to two different groups, Campaign Zero.
Just deal with the Amy Dacey letter. She is the CEO of the DNC. Deal with that, please.
Okay, so in that letter, there was actually support. They said what we'll do is promote an event that you organized, but the request was actually for the DNC to have a bigger DNC-sponsored event.
Look, all of this doesn't matter, Mr. Goodfriend, with all due respect. I'm in your class now, and my hand is going up. Professor,
yes, sir.
Is it right or wrong for the DNC to ally itself with this group that has called for police officers to be killed? Is that right or wrong?
I think the DNC isn't allying itself with this group.
They just said they want to have an event with them where their candidates can come and
they also said, Bill, that we repudiate any calls for violence. That's been on the record from the DNC.
They have not repudiated any calls
for violence.
All right, give me the name of the person who has done that. Do you have it?
Okay, I do. In a statement issued yesterday by the DNC, they said the DNC repudiates all calls for violence.
The DNC. I'm talking about, look, would you be comfortable with the Republican Party bringing in the storm front, the Nazi people, and saying, we'd like our candidates to talk to you guys. Would you be comfortable with that,
No.
Mr. Goodfriend? Okay.
No, I wouldn't.
But they're an extreme group, the Nazi Party. The Black Lives Matter is also an extreme group, as you've heard, as we prove it. They just this week interrupted a town hall meeting in Los Angeles, where the mayor couldn't even speak to the folks. They stormed in. Okay.
That was terrible.
Thank you, Professor, for being an honest man. So again, you don't object to the Democratic Party getting into a relationship with Black Lives Matter after all they've done. I just don't understand. And Mr. Boycott, I'm going to give you the last word. You got 30 seconds. Think very hard about what you're going to say. Go ahead, Professor.
I have a friend.
No. It's Professor now. You get the last word. Go.
Okay. I live in a very nice neighborhood where we have a lot of great friends. My sons have friends who are African American. Those folks worry about their sons, who are my son's age, being pulled over and hurt by police, and I don't worry about that.
Have them go into a group that doesn't call for death to police.
People.
I think that's the way it goes. All right, Mr. Boykin, you got 30 seconds.
The Black Lives Matter movement is not the Nazi party. The Black Lives Matter movement is not the Nazi Party. It's an offensive suggestion to make that comparison, Bill. I'm outraged that you would say that.
I know.
And the reality is that no one I know who's a part of the leadership has ever endorsed the killing of police officers.
I asked you to give me one name of repudiation, and neither of you gentlemen can give me a name.
Can you name me one person who's endorsed that?
Yeah, I can. We just played a videotape, and it looked like about 50 or 60, maybe 100 people
leader in the Black Lives Matter movement who's endorsed killing cops. Give me one, Bill.
The group is judged
you
by
can't
its
do
behavior,
it because it didn't happen.
The
it's not true.
group is judged by its behavior.
It's a shame.
All America just saw the behavior on the videotape. We appreciate the debate. Dana Perino on deck. Did Hillary Clinton's testimony today hurt her presidential chances? And Waters on what the folks know about the situation. We're coming right back.
The #1 cable news show for 15 years and counting.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly in the Unresolved Problem segment. Tonight, as mentioned in the Talking Points memo, Hillary Clinton's Benghazi testimony went on and on and on and on and on and on. Very simple question, though. Did it mean anything at all? Here now, the co-host of the 5, Dana Perino. Did it mean anything at all?
Well, I think it's interesting that this is called the Unresolved Problem segment.
Yes.
Because I think there is an unresolved problem. And that is the crux of the issue for me, which is who pushed the video live. And she did not actually solve that problem. In fact, I do think the one thing that probably hurt her is the email that she sends that night to her daughter, and then a subsequent conversation with the Egyptian Prime Minister that says, we know it wasn't a protest, it was an Al-Qaeda attack.
But I talked about this with Catherine Herridge up top and Bernie Goldberg, too. And I said, listen, when you're in an administration, as you were with President Bush, and the boss tells you this is the narrative, you go along with the narrative, do you not?
Not if it's not true.
Okay, very interesting. Tony Snow, the late Tony Snow, who Dana took his place, told me that as well. But you would have to resign.
Yes, you would.
You would have to quit. So it was clear to me from this testimony today and the evidence that we now know is in stone that Mrs. Clinton made a decision. She was going to go along with the deception and rationalize it by, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the CIA came up with something else. That's really what happened.
And remember also they arrest somebody who's a video maker. And that's always been a problem for me personally, which is that if you want to be president of the United States, presumably you believe in the First Amendment. We are allowed to express ourselves. You can't arrest somebody for a parole violation because there was a video that wasn't even linked. And you know that.
But that's an ancillary thing. The big picture is Hillary Clinton, and the consensus here is that she didn't really hurt herself all that much.
Nope.
Because Democrats don't care.
Correct.
And Republicans hate her anyway.
That's right.
All right. So that narrow line of people who don't really know anything, and they vote too, and independent people who haven't decided, that's where all of this lies now. And is this big enough to influence their vote?
I don't think so, because the #1 issue for everybody is the economy, and also elections are about moving forward. What are we going to do? You know, we're pioneers still in spirit. We want to know where are we going as a country. If she can make the pivot, which I think she will be able to in the next couple of weeks, get this Benghazi hearing behind her, it is just a straight run for her to the Oval Office.
It is a straight run, but I disagree that it's to the Oval Office, because if I'm running against Hillary Clinton, I'm running against her on two things. Number one, her quasi-socialistic viewpoint of the Democratic Party is going to hurt the economy, and it's going to be even worse than it is now. And number two, that you're not a good leader. But you're a poor leader, a weak leader, and that you've demonstrated that. Now, I'm speaking as a candidate now, not as a commentator, okay? So you far-left websites who like to lie about us, I'm speaking in a hypothetical sense. So I'm running against her, and I'm going to be debating her one-on-one, all right? And I'm saying, you're a terrible leader. You're an awful leader. All right, under your charge, this happened, that happened, this happened. And believe me, Benghazi's in that mix.
Yes, it is.
So I think you might be a little bit optimistic about her charging into the Oval Office at this point.
Well, I think that would be a very good strategy because every election is about character, and your number one tactic is to try to define your opponent. So if you define them as somebody that doesn't have the character that you have, then you probably will do better in the election.
But here, the Republicans have an enormous amount of ammunition because there is a record of 6 years of Secretary of State. And she admitted, my security professionals, I didn't even know. Come on.
That's right. Well, so about 44% of the country has made up their mind on her that they don't like her. 44% loves her. She can do no wrong. So you're right. There's about 12% of people that she could try to persuade. There's a very small margin of error for her in this election.
And then the Electoral College comes into play as well, because there are states that can be, taken by the Republicans if the candidate is suitable.
And in future discussions, we should talk about the get out the vote efforts, because her digital campaign, her ability to try to get people, it's very, very good, and the Republicans are behind.
Like that. Yeah, Republicans are behind on a lot of stuff. It's kind of like, I don't know. Dana Perino, everybody, there she is. Water's on deck. Asking the folks about Hillary Clinton and Benghazi. Should be interesting. We'll be right back. Controversy. Simple assignment. Perfect for Waters. Here he is.
Tell me about Benghazi.
Benghazi?
Someone from the Middle East, a leader for...
Could he be Italian? Or maybe not.
Ooh, I can't really tell you much about Benghazi, to be honest, right now.
There was some sort of uprising with militias in Libya. There was an overthrowing of the embassy, and about 3 people were killed.
We had intel that this was going to happen, but there weren't precautionary measures taken.
People are blowing it way out of proportion right now to try to make Hillary Clinton look bad.
Too late.
Where is Benghazi?
I have no idea.
Is Israel?
Afghanistan, Pakistan.
In the street somewhere.
In the streets?
Yeah.
Technically accurate.
Is it closer to Egypt?
Yes, it is very close to Egypt.
Okay.
Iraq.
Warmer.
Libya.
Excellent. Someone is testifying about Benghazi. Do you know who that is?
I'm going to say Trump. No, definitely Bush. It's got to be Bush.
Obama, I guess.
Could it be the lady Condoleezza, maybe, with the rice-a-roni?
Not Condoleezza Rice-a-roni.
Hillary Clinton. Oh, yeah, 5th grade. Yeah. See, I still got my stuff. Gone to college. Ooh, look at me.
I'm smart and I want respect.
Do you trust Hillary?
In many respects, I do.
Then why is she hiding and deleting all of her emails?
Boy, she's doing that now?
Do you trust Hillary?
Hurry up, we only got 8 minutes.
Yeah, I think she's the lesser of the evils, I would say.
Then why is she hiding and deleting all of her emails?
Something I am willing to forgive.
If Hillary can't protect her own ambassador, how can she protect the country if she's president?
This is that show where you talk to college-age kids and get them to not answer. And then you add goofy sound effects. It's like doing, oing, oing, oing.
Where do you get most of your news from?
I no longer have cable.
Obama economy's tough, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't watch any news.
So how do you know what's going on?
NPR, oh yeah, NPR, the terrible liberal media.
I go to CNN.
I can tell. What do you do all day?
I work all day, basically. I'm on shoots, I go to castings if I'm not working.
You're a model?
Yeah.
Anything scandalous?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking for my friend over here.
I work at a gym down the road.
You're a personal trainer?
Yeah.
Let me feel these things.
You want to feel the guns?
Just watch out for the guns. They'll get you.
Have you ever seen a UFO?
Hui.
You'll get no argument from me on that.
What do you do all day?
Play video games, bass fishing.
Bass
video
fishing,
games. Because I'm squeamish, I play a PlayStation 2 fishing game.
How big was the last fish you caught?
About yay big.
Don't lie about your size.
If you don't laugh, it just seems mean.
Do you vote?
Nope.
It's probably a good thing. How do you make money?
I sell stickers that I make.
Do you want to make a little more money?
Sure.
That wasn't an offer.
Like, I'm going to sit in the park. Just stare and...
What are you talking about?
Did you ever watch The Oreilly Factor?
Yeah, my grandparents watch that every day. Every day it's on. They got me his book. I read his book when I was a teenager.
Denied.
You're my favorite part of the show. It's true.
No, they'll just be like, what are you doing? Why don't you look like Jesse Waters? Why don't you wear a suit like him?
The two of us together? Forget it.
All right, here's Waters. How many people did you interview about
We
Benghazi?
spoke to 8 people.
How many out of the 8 knew what was going on?
2 or 3 were conversant about it. I'm not going to say knew about it, but could talk about it.
They had heard about it.
They had heard about it and generally knew something.
Now, when you have 8 people on camera, how many of those, how many more wouldn't talk to you?
Well, one person I said, well, tell me about Benghazi, and she ran away.
Okay.
So that was the only person we didn't use.
So out of the 9 people that you approached, 8 said, okay, I'll talk to you.
Right.
And I'll look like an idiot.
Right.
See, they don't really mind that.
No, they don't.
Right.
I mean, one guy, the guy with the long blonde hair, said that, oh, I know what you do.
Right.
My grandparents watch. I'm not doing this. And then proceeded to talk to me for 10 minutes.
You know, that guy, though, when he said his grandparents must be 120. He looked like he was like 50 years old.
I think that's just the hair.
Yeah. All right, there's Waters, and we got a secret assignment. It'll be back on Monday. It's, I'm not going to say.
Don't ruin it.
Yeah, I'm not going to ruin it. Fact the tip of the day, when things are going really badly for you, how you can turn it all around. The tip, moments away. Graceful statement, Carol, flat out. Mike Wendler, Newcastle, Delaware. Bill, I think it's necessary for you to call for a boycott of San Francisco. Too many good people will be hurt by that. But certainly millions of people who watch The Factor know the city's run by irresponsible folks, and the decision to spend money there is entirely up to you. Michael Costers, Kingman, Arizona. It's good that Nikki Johnson Houston feels her mother loves her. It's too bad she loves drugs and alcohol more. Andrea Katz, Schwenksville, Pennsylvania. I agree that parents who abuse drugs and alcohol are abusing their children. Tom Boone, Houston, Texas. What a woman Miss Houston is. I'd love to hear from her without you stepping on her thoughts, Oreilly. Zach Hollis, Santa Barbara, California. It was refreshing to see a guest with an opposing point of view, given a fair amount of time to make her case. Same interview, 2 opposite reactions. Sandy Ozanich, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Mr. Oreilly, I find you to be arrogant and condescending on most subjects. Well, I appreciate that, Sandy. Susan J., Plainville, Connecticut. Bill, thank you for writing Killing Reagan. I cried. It was so moving. James Christensen, San Juan Capo, California. I have ordered 8 books and just bought 5 more on Costco, giving gifts to those I love and to liberals who just might be converted on Reagan. Good. George Papp, Melbourne, Florida. Bill, I find it becoming that you, unbecoming it should be, I find it unbecoming that you make fun of people on The Factor. You make a habit of this. I have a line, but I'm not going to give it to you. And that was my typo, by the way. And finally tonight, the Factor Tip of the Day. Congratulations to the New York Mets. Going to the World Series. First time in 15 years, as some of you know. I was raised a Mets fan, even though I like the Yankees as well. The Mets are my legacy team. Now, early this season, the Mets were dismal, awful, horrible, and pathetic. In June, things were so bad, the stadium looked like a desert in Morocco. Nobody there. Not even camels. But then, things turned around. Basically, management brought in some new players. The coaching staff, manager Terry Collins, coaches Bob Guerin, Dan Worthen, Tim Tuffle, kept the team together. Bingo, Mets are in the World Series. So here's the Factor Tip of the Day. When things get really bad for you, don't give up. You can find a solution. You can turn it around. Think of the Mets. And that is it for us tonight. Please check out the Fox News Factor website, which is different from BillO'Reilly.com. Also, we'd like you to spout about the Factor from anywhere in the world. O'Reilly at FoxNews.com, O'Reilly at FoxNews.com. Name and town if you wish to opine. Word of the day. I love this word. I love this word. Do not be Pecksniffian when writing to the Factor. I wish they get Gregory Peck when I say Pecksniffian. Gregory Peck, I saw him. I was 7 years old. I'm in the theater, and he was after the whale. Remember that? Moby Dick, he's after the whale. He's on the whale with the harpoon. but Moby Dick beat him. And before Gregory Peck died in the movie, he said, "Don't be Peck sniffing." Again, thanks for watching us tonight. Miss Megan is next. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Please remember, Spin Stop's here, so we're definitely looking out for you.